but it is now time for one of my favorite times of the year, and that is the upcoming tournament that is known as the Madness in March. NCAA tournament is officially back. Yesterday, we saw Selection Sunday. We saw the conference championships wrap up. We saw the alma mater of mine, Kent State, close out a men's tournament victory over the Toledo Rockets, and Toledo got the girls a win over everyone else as well. So it balances out in my house. So Kent State will represent Ohio, one of two schools, along with Xavier, to be in the NCAA tournament this year. And Mitch, these are just two teams in Ohio. We have the rest of the 60 some odd teams to get to here. Some of them powerhouses in their conferences and the rest of the country here as we pull up this bracket that I can try and get here on my screen. And it can't, of course, right when I need it, it doesn't come up. So we'll get to that in just a second. But I mean, you look at some of the matchups you have here where your one seeds are Alabama, Houston, Kansas, and Purdue. I mean, very good teams throughout the year. You take you have to take one of those one seeds to win this title this year. Who are you taking?
Wow, that's tough. That's very tough because I love Kansas, but Mitch, when's the last time we've seen a team repeat as a national champion? I believe the last team to even get back to the Final Four was actually Florida, if I'm
Yep.
not mistaken, after they beat Ohio State in the 06, 07, and then returning there in 07, 08. Houston, there's a giant question mark because they lose their top player with a groin injury in the semifinal of their tournament in Sasser. We also know Kelvin Sampson dealing with some personal issues after a death in the family. So, where is Houston at there? Purdue, as the biggest guy in the tournament, can he do what he's done, really do what he did in the Big Ten tournament, Mitch? For a few more games for Purdue and Bama, listen, they're hot. They've been able to deal with all the off the court madness this year. It's so hard to pick because this is where it gets crazy. I will say my bold prediction is all 4 one seeds will win the first round this upcoming opening weekend. I would say, Mitch, right now, and this could obviously change, especially before we probably give our actual predictions on the next show this week.
Yes.
I would say right now I'm leaning Alabama. I look at where the bracket is. I do think Houston actually got the most favorable draw in the tournament in terms of who their first 2 round games are, even if Sasser is out for the Cougars. But Bama, really, they also have a pretty easy draw up until what could potentially be the Sweet 16. But even then, I think the Elite Eight, they would finally have their first real test of who would come out of the bottom half of the bracket in the South. Kansas, we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, the defending national champions, but they have a gauntlet, in my opinion, of a bracket. And the thing with Purdue, Mitch, they've always had these big men. The officiating in March Madness is always a little bit different than what it is in league play. I saw a stat that Zach Edey has more games this year with no fouls called, 6, than he does in games played where he has 3 fouls or more. He only has 2 games this year where he's eclipsed 3 fouls, which he ended with 4 fouls. And that means 4 games with 3 fouls, which is absolutely incredible for a 7'4" big man. But every conference officiates a little differently and every team plays a little differently. We'll have to see how teams attack him. I would like to see Purdue make a run because obviously in the Big Ten, Matt Painter's been there for a while. I think Purdue's very talented after winning the Big Ten championship in a squeaker yesterday over Penn State. But I feel like the big question is, how does Edey and every big man they've had, like Isaac Haas in recent memory for Purdue, how do they stack up moving forward? Can they stay out of foul trouble? And if they can, this is a team that very well can win it all. But if they can't, Mitch, their team and the way they facilitate on offense just goes away. It obviously helps when you have a 7'4" man in the paint you can kick it to, and as soon as the double comes, you find the open man on the floor. I'm going to say it's Alabama as it stands right now, though, is the top 1 seed that I think makes it all the way to the Final Four.
Looking at the first round potential matchups, I think Alabama might actually have the easiest run to get to. But I'm looking at Houston as well. Houston's a very solid team. Houston's had a couple of hiccups throughout the season, but overall they've been a very solid team. And you look at some of the games that they'll have coming up here. They saw off obviously with Northern Kentucky, and then could potentially face off at schools of the likes of maybe some Big Ten opponents like Iowa and Indiana in the second and third rounds, respectively. And then you get past some of the teams on the other side of the Midwest. You have teams like Texas. You have Xavier, the 3rd seed. You could have somebody in the mix of Texas A&M, who's a 7, a potentially dangerous 7, if that. I don't know. It's going to be very interesting for me to be able to sit down and go over the games this week as I do my bracket. By the way, that's the whole thing too. Are we past the days of printing out your brackets and like writing them down? Because I feel like everything now is just on an app that we use on our phones, and it is convenient, no doubt. But okay, there we go. Okay, I like that.
Now
I like
wait, now
that.
they're not written down. I did print what I did, but
Yeah,
every year I actually do print a blank bracket and either A, write in what I think happens, and then also have another one where I actually write the results of the team that advanced. Call me old fashioned or crazy, that's fine. I just think there's a lot of fun in that.
yeah.
Being able to kind of track and write it in yourself and see what happens. But yeah, Mitch, I made sure to fill out a mock bracket. This is not what I imagine my final bracket's going to look like. But I did print it out because I love having it in front of me. Because on your phone, you can only see so many quadrants at once. Where
Yeah.
here, I can really look at the entire field of 64 teams to see what I really like and, keep track of it a little bit easier.
That's nice. Nice job printing it out in portrait mode, by the way. You got that big portion of paper there left for your notes. I like that. But no, I like to print them out still as well. I used to do like one official bracket and then one bias bracket. That's kind of what I like to do. I always wanted to be the one where you'd see those advertisements for the upcoming tournament, and it would be them lampooning on the fact that people do brackets this time of year. And I always wanted to have that one scenario where it looked like what are those things you see in TV or movies where somebody's got like this conspiracy and they have like these things lined up on a board. They have like these pictures and files
Oh,
lined up on a thing. I understand the fact that it's supposed to be like this person's so crazy that they've been detailing it for this long, but I've always wanted to have like that sort of setup in my office or whatever, being like, okay, let's see, Murray State. Well, let's see, their average of 43.6 points per game versus AACC opponents this year might lend them to a 7-10 upset over the likes of Clemson here. Okay, so now we go over to this one here where Duke has been really struggling in the second half of games so far this year. You have matchups where against the likes of Big Ten opponents, Iowa, Ohio State, and Michigan, they've only been really able to shoot 46.7% from the 3-point line this year. I sound insane just in audio form. If you're listening here in your car or at home, I mean, imagine if I had like a whole bunch of yarn and pens and like pen marks on a board. Like if I could just take this, I have a whole white wall back there behind the bed. You could just use that whole thing there. I don't even know what I'm doing at this point. This segment, this bit went absolutely nowhere. We're just gonna talk. We're gonna save this for the latter part of the week, where basically we're going to go through all of our picks, and we will crown our predetermined national champion. The picks that we have will be the national champions here in the next couple of weeks. Guarantee it, no doubt.